The steel-toed boot crushes Mr. Alex Stone's fingers against the concrete as Mr. Mark Jenkins spits. "Know your place, boy. Monkeys don't design buildings." Laughter erupts across the construction site. Alex's architectural plans, weeks of work, lie shredded in a muddy puddle. His face remains stone-cold, composed as Mark forces him to kneel, pretending to check safety equipment, but actually humiliating him before the all-Caucasian crew. "Maybe back in Africa you built mud huts, but this is American engineering." Mark sneers loud enough for everyone to hear. Alex silently retrieves his phone, makes one call. 15 minutes later, the Summit Structures helicopter touches down. The CEO emerges, walks past confused workers directly to Alex. "The inspection ready, Mr. Stone." Alex straightens his suit jacket, turns to the now silent crew. "As executive chairman and majority owner, I'm terminating your employment effective immediately, Mr. Jenkins." The construction crew freezes as Alex pulls out a recorder, replaying Mark's prejudiced tirade at maximum volume. Alex Stone, a civil engineer with 20 years of experience and secretly the majority owner of Summit Structures, arrives at the troubled Chicago construction site of his company's most ambitious project, a $500 million mixed-use development. The project stands 6 weeks behind schedule and significantly over budget. The downtown skyline looms in the background, a reminder of what this development could become under proper management. Alex has decided to go undercover as a new laborer to identify the problems firsthand without the filter of management reports. He parks his modest rental car in the employee lot rather than arriving in his usual luxury vehicle. His expensive watch is replaced with a basic timepiece, his tailored suits exchanged for standard work clothes. Only the keen observer would notice the quality of his boots, the one concession to comfort he's allowed himself. Site engineer Mr. Tom Jenkins arrives late, coffee in hand, barking orders before he's fully out of his truck. Known for his technical skills but difficult personality, Mark immediately shows bias when Alex approaches with his paperwork. Mark barely glances at Alex's resume before assigning him to debris removal, the most physically demanding task on site that day. "You look like you can lift things," Mark says, speaking slowly as if Alex might not understand English. "Education sections probably anyway. Harvard, right?" He laughs, a sharp sound without humor, and several nearby workers join in reflexively. Throughout the day, Alex observes everything silently. He notes which workers are actually productive versus those who simply align with Mark politically. He catalogs every microaggression. The way Mark interrupts him mid-sentence, how other supervisors avoid eye contact, the subtle jokes at his expense during lunch break. In a brief private moment, Alex reviews the site plans on his tablet, immediately identifying critical flaws in Mark's approach to the foundation work. The calculations are off by nearly 15%, a potentially catastrophic error that would compromise the entire East Wing. As the day ends, Alex approaches Mark with several suggestions for improving the concrete pour scheduled for tomorrow. Mark's face darkens. "Listen, college boy," he says loud enough for others to hear. "We've been doing this since before you knew what a hammer was. Stick to your lane." As Alex turns away, a text message lights his phone. "How bad is it? Should we clean house?" Day 3 on site. The morning fog hasn't yet burned off, casting the skeletal framework of the building in ghostly silhouette. Alex has been meticulously documenting safety violations and inefficiencies while performing his assigned labor tasks flawlessly. His muscles ache from the deliberate overwork Mark has assigned, but his mind remains sharp, calculating. He approaches Mark with documented evidence of a serious structural issue that could threaten the integrity of the East Wing Foundation. The stress calculations show potential failure points under specific load conditions, the kind of technical detail that should alarm any competent engineer. Mark stands in the middle of a meeting with his inner circle of favored employees, all Caucasian men with similar builds and identical hard hats adorned with American flag stickers. They form a physical barrier, a wall of privilege Alex must penetrate to be heard. Alex waits respectfully until acknowledged, then professionally presents his concerns with supporting calculations. "Sir, I've noticed these support columns don't meet code requirements for seismic resistance. The calculations show. Mark cuts him off mid-sentence, crumples the paper without looking at it, and tosses it into a nearby puddle. Listen, stick to lifting things, he says, voice dripping with condescension. People like you don't understand the complexities of modern construction. We're not building a basketball court here. The inner circle laughs on cue, a synchronized chorus of mockery. One worker, Miss Sarah Evans, a mid-level supervisor with tired eyes and calloused hands, looks uncomfortable, but remains silent. Alex notices this, making mental note of potential allies. Mark raises his voice for the benefit of nearby workers, turning the confrontation into a performance of dominance. Where'd you say you went to school again? MIT? Harvard? He emphasizes each institution with exaggerated pronunciation. Funny how none of those fancy degrees taught you your place on a real job site. When Alex calmly stands his ground and references specific building codes being violated, Mark's demeanor turns threatening. He steps closer, invading Alex's personal space. You questioning my expertise? 20 years I've run sites like this. 20 years without some affirmative action hire telling me how to do my job. The site falls silent, the tension palpable. As Alex begins cleaning portable toilets, his new punishment assignment, a blocked number calls his phone. Mark's campaign against Alex intensifies under the harsh mid-morning sun. At the daily briefing, Mark singles out Alex from among 30 workers, forcing him to stand in the center of their circle. Stone here is going to demonstrate proper lifting technique, Mark announces, his voice thick with mockery. Since he's got such perfect form. Alex performs the demonstration flawlessly, his movements efficient and precise. This only seems to irritate Mark more. The site engineer accidentally spills coffee on Alex's meticulously prepared safety documentation and makes him repeat basic site protocols in front of everyone as if he were a child reciting the alphabet. Slower, Mark demands when Alex explains the evacuation procedure. Use smaller words. Not everyone went to your fancy schools. The humiliation culminates when Mark demands Alex explain his background to the assembled crew. The workers shift uncomfortably, some looking at their boots, others watching with undisguised amusement. I have a dual degree in civil engineering and business administration, Alex states calmly. 20 years of experience in. Mark's laugh cuts through Alex's words like a saw blade. Right. And I'm the Queen of England. He turns to the crew. Anyone here believe our friend actually has an engineering degree? Silence follows, broken by nervous laughter. Let's test that theory. Mark continues, pulling out a blueprint. Calculate the load-bearing capacity of this support column right now. No calculator. Alex studies the drawing for precisely 10 seconds. 14,623 pounds. Assuming standard grade materials. Less if you're using the discounted concrete I noticed being delivered yesterday. Mark's face darkens, a flush creeping up his neck. The accuracy of Alex's assessment is undeniable, which only fuels Mark's anger. That afternoon, Mark retaliates by assigning Alex to work directly under his most aggressive foreman, Mr. Brian O'Connell, a bull-necked man with perpetually sunburned skin. O'Connell forces Alex to haul materials in the rain without proper gear, while others work undercover. You need to be toughened up, O'Connell explains, not meeting Alex's eyes. There's a hint of reluctance in his voice, suggesting he's following orders rather than acting from personal malice. Throughout it all, Alex maintains dignity and professionalism. When a younger worker struggles with an unwieldy load of rebar, Alex quietly shows him a more efficient carrying technique. When another laborer nearly causes an accident with improper wiring, Alex corrects the issue without drawing attention to the mistake. From across the site, Mark watches, his expression darkening as he notices several workers beginning to defer to Alex's quiet expertise. He overhears two electricians discussing Alex's correct prediction about a supply delivery issue that Mark had dismissed days earlier. The scene climaxes under the punishing afternoon heat. Alex takes a brief water break, his shirt soaked with sweat. Mark storms over, knocking the water bottle from his hand. Did I say you could stop working? You, Mark shouts, This isn't some country club. You people always looking for handouts, for breaks. Alex photographs the serial number of the cement mixer where Mark tossed his safety equipment, then dials the board chair. Night blankets Chicago's Gold Coast as Alex enters his penthouse apartment. The contrast with his work site persona striking and immediate. He peels off mud-caked work gloves, revealing a body marked with fresh bruises, badges of Mark's vindictive assignments. The luxury apartment's walls display framed engineering awards and photographs with prominent business and political figures. Senators, governors, even 2 former presidents. Alex steps into his home office, activating a sophisticated communications setup that would look more at home in a corporate headquarters than a residence. He speaks via encrypted video conference with CEO Ms. Eleanor Green, a silver-haired woman with calculating eyes, and the company's legal counsel, Mr. Daniel Hayes, a precise man with wire-rimmed glasses. It's worse than we suspected, Alex states, uploading his day's documentation to their shared server. 7 safety violations in 3 days. Racially motivated harassment as standard practice. Financial irregularities I'm still tracking. The screen fills with images, falsified inspection reports, substandard materials, discriminatory assignments clearly documented in Mark's own handwriting. This is enough for termination, Daniel suggests, reviewing the evidence. We don't need to continue this charade. Alex shakes his head. Not yet. I'm giving Mark enough rope to hang himself while identifying which employees are problematic versus those who are simply following a toxic leader. We need an airtight case, not just against Mark, but against the culture he's cultivated. Eleanor nods approval. Your father would be proud, Alex. He always said you had the patience for the long game. After the call ends, Alex sits silently in the dark, the city lights creating patterns across his living room floor. He approaches a side table holding a single framed photograph. His father in a hard hat, standing before Summit's first major project 30 years ago. One of the few black construction company owners in Chicago at that time, the elder Mr. Stone built his company despite constant discrimination. In a brief flashback, we see young Alex experiencing similar discrimination on his father's work sites, with his father pulling him aside after a particularly brutal encounter. One day you'll run this company, his father tells him, wiping blood from young Alex's split lip. When you do, build it better than I could. The memory hardens Alex's resolve. He reaches for his phone, making a decision to accelerate his plan. He calls Sarah Evans, the supervisor who showed discomfort during Mark's earlier tirade. She answers nervously. Hello. Who is this? Someone who noticed you have a conscience. Alex replies, keeping his tone neutral. He carefully probes her awareness of the site's problems without revealing his identity. The safety violations on the East Wing. You've seen them too, haven't you? A long pause. I have 2 kids, she finally says. I'm a single mother. I can't afford to lose this job. What if I guaranteed your position? What if you had protection? Before ending the call, Alex pulls up the project financials on his tablet, discovering irregularities in the payment records. Mark has been approving payments to shell companies with names like P&M Supplies and Lakeshore Materials, entities that don't exist in any legitimate business registry. Alex's phone buzzes with Sarah's urgent text. Mark falsifying tomorrow's safety inspection. I have proof. Dawn breaks over the construction site, the skeletal framework catching the first rays of sunlight. Alex arrives 30 minutes early, finding Sarah waiting in the shadow of a cement truck. Nervousness evident in her constant glances toward Mark's office. He doesn't arrive until 7:30, she whispers, handing Alex a flash drive. These are copies of the original safety reports and the versions he submitted to headquarters. The differences? Her voice trails off. Alex reviews the documents on his phone, his expression hardening. 3 workers injured last month. Sarah nods. Mr. Rodriguez, no relation, lost 2 fingers. Mr. Jameson suffered second-degree burns. Mr. Williams had a concussion after a scaffold collapse. All pressured to take cash payments instead of filing workers' comp. Thank you, Alex says, pocketing the drive. This information will be addressed when the official workday begins. Mark arrives with unusual energy, scanning the site like a predator. His gaze locks on Alex and Sarah, standing near each other. Within minutes, he separates them, sending Sarah to supervise electrical installation at the furthest corner of the site. Stone! Mark bellows across the yard. Chemical spill by the supply containers. Clean it up. Alex approaches the spill. Corrosive solvent that's eaten through its container. I'll need hazmat gear for this, he states calmly. OSHA Regulation 1910.120 requires appropriate protective equipment for. Listen to this guy. Mark interrupts, addressing the gathering workers. Some people think safety regulations are more important than getting the job done on time. His tone makes the implication clear. Real men don't worry about safety. Several workers laugh on cue while others shift uncomfortably. Alex notices the division forming. Mark's loyal followers versus those beginning to question his leadership. Alex stands his ground. I'm happy to complete the task. I just need proper equipment. Equipment costs money. Mark snaps. Money? This project is already bleeding because you people can't work efficiently. The prejudiced undertone hangs in the air, unmistakable. Several workers look away, embarrassed. One veteran worker, Mr. Robert Green, Caucasian, 60s, with arms mapped by old scars, quietly approaches with proper protective gear when Mark turns away. He did the same thing to my nephew, Robert whispers. Boy quit after a week. Couldn't take it. When Mark notices this act of solidarity, his face contorts with rage. He storms toward Robert. You undermining me, Green? 20 years until retirement. Shame if something happened to your pension. Alex steps between them. That sounds like a threat, Mr. Jenkins. I wonder how OSHA would view your approach to workplace safety. Mark's response is physical. A shove that sends Alex backward. Mark retreats to his office, frantically dialing his phone. Someone from corporate is watching us. Clean things up fast. The site intercom crackles to life at precisely 10 a.m. mandatory safety meeting. All personnel, main tent now. Mark's voice sounds strained, unnaturally formal. Workers exchange confused glances as they gather under the large canvas structure that serves as the site's central meeting area. Mark stands at the front, a stack of fresh safety manuals beside him that still smell of printer ink. Sweat beads on his forehead despite the morning chill. Effective immediately, we're implementing enhanced safety protocols. Mark announces, his eyes darting around the room. All accidents, no matter how minor, must be documented. All safety gear must be worn at all times. He distributes new checklists, forms backdated to the beginning of the project, pre-filled with perfect compliance ratings. Alex watches silently from the back row, noting which employees appear relieved by the sudden attention to safety versus those exchanging worried glances with Mark. The division becomes clearer. Approximately 60% seem genuinely pleased by the changes, while a core group of 15 men share Mark's evident discomfort. After the meeting, Mark approaches Alex with an abrupt change in demeanor. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Stone, he says, clapping Alex on the shoulder like an old friend. I've been watching your work. Impressive attention to detail. How about a promotion? Team lead position just opened up. 15% pay increase. I appreciate the offer, Alex responds evenly. But I'd prefer to complete my current assignment first. Proper foundation for the East Wing takes priority. Wouldn't you agree? Mark's friendly facade cracks momentarily, a flash of anger leaking through before he reassembles his smile. Sure. Think about it, though. Opportunity like this doesn't come around often for, well, you know. Meanwhile, Sarah moves methodically through the site, speaking briefly with workers during shift changes and breaks. Alex observes her collecting small notes, workers whispering quickly before returning to their tasks. During lunch, she slides a folded paper across the table to Alex, disguising the movement by asking loudly about concrete setting times. The paper contains a list of names, workers who've experienced discrimination or witnessed safety violations, dates, times, and specific incidents carefully noted in different handwritings. From a distance, Mark watches their interaction through the window of his temporary office. He summons his foreman, Mr. David Young. That woman and Stone, they're getting too friendly. I want eyes on them at all times. Mark pulls up security footage on his computer, zooming in on Alex making calls during his breaks and find out who he is talking to every day at exactly 12:30. Young approaches Alex with a steel beam accidentally aimed at his pocket until Sarah's urgent question diverts the sabotage. Mark's office blinds remain closed, but the raised voices inside penetrate the thin walls. Workers passing by catch fragments. Loyalty, expectations, replaceable. When Sarah emerges 15 minutes later, her face is composed, but her hands tremble slightly as she clutches her clipboard. Alex intercepts her path near the water cooler. Everything all right? He knows, she whispers, not looking directly at him. Threatened my job. Said single mothers aren't reliable employees anyway. She straightens her hard hat with forced casualness. Said he'd make sure I never work construction in Chicago again. Alex makes a subtle note in his phone. Documentation continues, he says quietly. The next morning dawns with ominous storm clouds gathering. Mark arrives unnaturally early, summoning both Alex and Sarah before the regular crew. Special assignment today, he announces with artificial cheer. Northeast scaffolding needs inspection. Both of you. Alex surveys the structure. Rising 7 stories with no fall protection visible. Neither of us is certified for scaffold inspection or high elevation work. Mark's smile hardens. If you're too scared, go home. Plenty of people want your job. He taps his clipboard meaningfully. Or maybe you'd prefer another assignment. The sewage connection needs clearing. With calculated confidence, Alex approaches the scaffolding, performing a textbook safety check before ascending. He identifies loose bolts, missing cross braces, and inadequate anchoring, all while appearing to simply prepare for the climb. Sarah follows his lead, mimicking his methodical approach. Together, they navigate the precarious structure. Alex subtly guiding Sarah to the safest path while documenting each violation with his phone camera. Workers below stop to watch their progress, several pointing out Alex's evident expertise to each other. Where'd he learn to move like that? One electrician asks another. Guy handles heights better than the professional riggers. The visible shift in workplace dynamics isn't lost on Mark, who paces below, his agitation growing with each murmur of approval from the crew. During a brief water break, Alex positions himself near Mark's partially open office window, appearing to check messages while actually recording Mark's phone conversation. Don't care how you do it. Just get rid of the troublemakers before the suits visit next week. Mark hisses into his phone. I've got friends in local 2011. Stone and Evans won't find construction work again in this city. Make it look like performance issues. The confrontation reaches its peak during the afternoon briefing. Mark deliberately reviews outdated blueprints, marking foundation locations that would interfere with recently installed utility lines. When Alex respectfully points out the error, Mark snaps. He throws the blueprints, pages scattering like oversized confetti. If you think you can do my job better, go ahead. The site falls silent. All eyes turn to Alex. Alex calmly collects the blueprints, takes a measured breath, and says, Actually, Mr. Jenkins, that's exactly why I'm here. The construction site freezes in tableau. Workers suspended mid-motion, tools paused in mid-air. Alex stands at the center, blueprints gathered methodically in his hands, his posture transforming subtly from submissive to commanding. For the first time, he allows his true identity to surface in his bearing. Execute Protocol 17. He speaks clearly into his phone. Mark's laugh breaks the silence. What the hell are you talking about? Alex doesn't respond. His attention focused on the horizon where the distinctive thump-thump-thump of helicopter blades grows louder. The massive Summit Structures logo becomes visible on the approaching aircraft side. The company's executive transport, rarely seen at active construction sites. Workers shield their eyes against the dust cloud as the helicopter settles at the edge of the property. CEO Ms. Eleanor Green emerges first, elegant in a tailored suit despite the construction environment, followed by two security officers in summit uniforms and a man carrying a legal briefcase. Mark rushes forward, straightening his hard hat, brushing dust from his shirt. "Ms. Green, what a surprise. If we'd known you were coming." She walks past him without acknowledgement, heading directly to Alex. They shake hands with the familiarity of longtime colleagues. "Everything documented?" she asks. "Everything," Alex confirms. Mark forces a laugh. "What's going on here?" "Stone's a new hire. Basic laborer. Whatever he's told you." Silence. Alex's command cuts through the site with unexpected authority. The transformation is complete. The subservient laborer entirely gone, replaced by an executive presence that commands immediate respect. Alex addresses the assembled workers. "My name is Alex Stone. I'm the executive chairman and majority owner of Summit Structures." The statement lands like a physical blow, workers visibly recoiling in shock. 6 weeks ago, this project fell critically behind schedule. Safety violations mounted. Budget overruns threatened its viability. Rather than relying on filtered reports, I chose to experience the problems firsthand. The shocked expressions of the crew create a powerful tableau. Disbelief, embarrassment, fear, all clearly visible. Some workers step back as if physical distance might separate them from their previous behaviors. Mark recovers first, forcing a smile. "Of course, I knew this was a test. Obviously, I was testing the crew's response to." Alex silences him with a raised hand. "Over the past 2 weeks, I've documented 27 safety violations, 13 instances of discriminatory behavior, and evidence suggesting financial impropriety." He nods to the security officers who move toward Mark's office with the legal counsel. "Those shell companies you've been approving payments to, P&M Supplies, Lakeshore Materials. Interesting that they all route to your brother-in-law's bank account." Mark's face drains of color. You can't prove." "We have the banking records," Alex continues calmly. "The falsified safety reports, the documented injuries, the recorded threats to employees who raised concerns." He turns to Sarah, who stands straight-backed despite her evident shock at the revelation. "Ms. Evans, effective immediately, you're promoted to interim site manager with a 40% salary increase." He then addresses Robert Green, the veteran worker who provided safety equipment. "Mr. Green, you're now safety compliance officer with appropriate compensation adjustments." Workers murmur in surprise, some nodding approval, while Mark's inner circle shifts uneasily, eyes darting toward escape routes. Alex finally turns to Mark, who has begun to sweat profusely. "Mr. Jenkins, your employment with Summit Structures is terminated, effective immediately. Security will escort you to collect personal belongings. Company property, including the truck, phone, and laptop, remains here." "You can't do this." Mark sputters, his voice rising to a desperate pitch. "I've run this site for—" "I can and I have," Alex interrupts. "The decision is effective immediately and irreversible." As security officers flank Mark, Alex addresses the remaining workers. "This company was founded by my father on principles of excellence, integrity, and respect. Those values aren't just words on our website. They're non-negotiable expectations. Starting tomorrow, this site will undergo complete reorganization. Those who share our values will thrive. Those who don't will follow Mr. Jenkins." Workers approach Alex one by one as Mark is escorted away. Some apologizing, others expressing relief, many revealing additional problems that Mark had concealed from reports. A young electrician admits that he'd been ordered to use substandard wiring to cut costs. A concrete specialist confesses that mix ratios had been altered to stretch supplies. Alex listens to each, recording names and details for follow-up. The true owner now fully visible in his methodical assessment of his company's wounded project. Mark makes one call from the parking lot, his voice shaking with rage. "Plan B. Now they'll regret this." Dawn breaks over a transformed construction site where chaos and hostility once reigned. Purposeful activity now dominates. Workers arrive early, moving with newfound energy. Safety equipment once stored in locked containers to save time now appears universally worn. The atmosphere has shifted from fear to focus. Alex stands beside Sarah at the main entrance, personally greeting each worker, learning names and specialties he'd been forced to pretend not to know during his undercover period. For many, this is their first direct interaction with the actual owner of Summit Structures, a company that employs over 5,000 people across the Midwest. The East Wing Foundation needs complete reassessment, Alex tells the assembled team leaders during the morning briefing. Mark's calculations were deliberately flawed, either through incompetence or sabotage. He unveils a revised timeline, acknowledging the project will require an additional 4 weeks, but emphasizing no one will lose income during the correction period. Better to build it right than build it twice, he states, his father's favorite saying now his own management philosophy. Corporate trainers arrive by mid-morning. Specialists in safety protocols, efficiency experts, and human resources professionals who begin interviewing workers about their experiences. Alex has made it clear no retaliation for honest testimony about Mark's regime. In Sarah's newly assigned office, formerly Mark's domain, Alex reviews personnel files with her, identifying employees for promotion and those requiring closer supervision. Mark created a culture of fear and favoritism, he explains. Some followed him because they shared his prejudices, others because they feared for their livelihoods. We need to determine which is which. Meanwhile, across town in Summit's downtown headquarters, the legal team makes a disturbing discovery. Financial analyst Ms. Priya Sharma rushes into CEO Eleanor Green's office with an armful of documentation. It's worse than we thought, she explains, spreading papers across the conference table. Mark's kickback scheme extends beyond this project. We've identified similar patterns on 3 other Summit sites, all supervised by managers who previously worked under Mark. The evidence reveals a complex web of corruption. Kickbacks from suppliers, falsified timesheets claiming overtime never worked, safety violations systematically concealed, and documented patterns of discrimination against minorities and women. The liability exposure is significant, Daniel Hayes, the legal counsel, states grimly. If any of these suppressed injuries result in long-term disability, the potential financial impact runs into millions. Money that should have built better structures, provided safer conditions, and rewarded deserving employees instead diverted to Mark's network. Mark himself attempts to fight back through his union connections. He files a grievance claiming wrongful termination, portraying himself as a dedicated employee victimized by a vindictive owner. Stone came in with an agenda, he tells union representatives. He wanted me gone so he could install his own people. This is reverse discrimination, plain and simple. Alex addresses the accusation head-on, meeting with union leadership at their headquarters. He presents evidence that Mark's actions endangered union members. Concrete pourers exposed to toxic chemicals without protection. Electricians forced to work with substandard materials. Carpenters punished for requesting proper safety harnesses. This isn't about Mark's race or background, Alex explains, displaying medical records of injured workers. It's about a supervisor who violated not just company policy, but federal law. It's about workers, your members, put at risk for one man's financial gain. The union withdraws support and launches its own investigation into how Mark manipulated labor assignments to punish those who questioned him. The following week, Alex chairs an emergency board meeting at Summit headquarters. Board members, mostly older Caucasian men who've held their positions since his father's time, appear uncomfortable with the revelations. The financial impact is significant, one director notes. Wouldn't it have been simpler to just fire Mark quietly? Did you need to go undercover yourself? Alex activates the presentation screen, showing pictures of the substandard materials, the falsified reports, the injured workers. Would anyone have believed this without first-hand documentation? Would any of you have authorized a complete investigation based on anonymous complaints? The uncomfortable silence answers his question. I worked my way up through every level of this company. Alex continues, revealing more about his background. After earning dual degrees in civil engineering and business, I started on the crew, just like my father did. I've experienced discrimination at every stage. Been denied opportunities, doubted, undermined. When my father died 5 years ago and I inherited controlling interest, I could have cleaned house immediately. He pauses, letting the implications sink in that many in this room might not have survived such a purge. Instead, I chose to understand the company from every angle before making changes. What I discovered at this project site isn't isolated. It's symptomatic of broader cultural problems we must address. The board unanimously supports Alex's handling of the Mark situation, though several express concern about potential media attention. If Mark pursues wrongful termination claims, he'll go public, one director warns. Construction is still an old boys' network. He has friends. Let him, Alex replies. I've documented everything meticulously. Transparency serves us better than cover-ups. The prediction proves accurate. Mark files a lawsuit claiming discrimination, demanding $2 million in damages for lost wages and reputational harm. Summit's legal team recommends settlement, cheaper than litigation regardless of merit, but Alex refuses. Some principles are worth fighting for, even when it costs more, he explains. If we settle, it suggests his claims have validity. They don't. As the case proceeds through initial filings, an unexpected development occurs. 3 other project managers within Summit suddenly submit resignations, all citing personal reasons or new opportunities. All had connections to Mark. All had overseen projects with similar patterns of financial irregularities. They're running scared, CO Eleanor Green observes, reviewing the resignation letters. They know we're examining every project now. Alex nods, adding the names to his growing list of necessary structural changes. The rot went deeper than one man. Mark created a network of like-minded managers who protected each other while undermining company values. The cleanup operation expands beyond the original construction site, with audit teams dispatched to every active Summit project. The financial impact grows. Remediation costs, compensation for injured workers previously silenced, reconstruction of improperly built structures. But Alex remains resolute. We build things to last generations, he reminds the board during their follow-up meeting. Integrity in construction isn't optional. People live and work in our buildings. Their safety depends on our honesty. The site itself transforms rapidly under Sarah's management. Previously marginalized workers step into leadership roles, demonstrating skills long ignored under Mark's regime. Productivity increases despite the more stringent safety protocols, proof that Mark's methods hadn't even delivered the efficiency he claimed would justify cutting corners. As Alex reviews the latest resignation letter, his assistant interrupts. Sir, a Tribune reporter is asking about systematic discrimination at Summit. Mark gave her documents. The arbitration room feels deliberately sterile, windowless, climate-controlled to uncomfortable perfection, furnished with identical chairs around an imposing mahogany table. Mark enters with practiced confidence, his navy suit carefully selected to project trustworthiness and professionalism. His attorney, a sharp-featured woman from an expensive downtown firm, carries a leather portfolio embossed with gold initials. Alex sits opposite, flanked by Summit's legal team. His expression remains neutral, giving away nothing as Mark shoots him a smirk designed to intimidate. For the record, begins the lead arbitrator, a former judge with silver hair and impassive eyes. This hearing will determine whether Mr. Thomas Jenkins's termination from Summit Structures violated employment law or contractual obligations. Mark presents himself as the victim, his rehearsed testimony hitting emotional notes with calculated precision. 20 years I gave to Summit, he tells the panel, voice cracking slightly. 20 years of meeting deadlines, solving problems, building this company's reputation. His lawyer presents selectively edited site reports highlighting projects completed under budget and productivity metrics that exceeded industry standards. My client maintained excellent safety records, she emphasizes, sliding folders toward the arbitrators. Not a single reported serious injury under his supervision. The keyword reported hangs in the air, though only Alex seems to notice its significance. For a moment, the arbitration panel appears potentially swayed. The lead arbitrator asks clarifying questions about project timelines, seemingly impressed by Mark's detailed knowledge of construction processes. And then Mr. Stone arrived. Mark continues, his tone shifting to indignation. No formal introduction, no transparency about his true position. He deliberately misrepresented himself to orchestrate my removal. And why would he do that? His attorney prompts. Mark leans forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Summit's board has been pushing for diversity hires in management. Stone needed to make room by eliminating experienced leaders like myself. This was a reverse discrimination which hunt, plain and simple. The room temperature seems to drop several degrees as Alex's legal team prepares their response. Their lead counsel, a black woman with 20 years of litigation experience, approaches the evidence table with methodical calm. Summit's response will be brief and factual. She begins, activating a display screen. First, video evidence from Mr. Stone's documentation. The screen shows Mark shoving a worker of color, throwing safety equipment into cement, and using prejudiced slurs when he believed no one of consequence was listening. The arbitrator's expressions harden as the montage continues. Second, testimony from injured workers who were pressured into silence. She introduces affidavits from 17 employees who suffered workplace injuries, from minor to life-altering, all undocumented in official reports. Third, forensic accounting showing the kickback scheme Mr. Jenkins operated. Financial charts appear mapping money flows from subcontractors to shell companies directly linked to Mark's brother-in-law, then to Mark's personal accounts. Finally, Mr. Jenkins's own communications. The lawyer plays audio recordings of threats made to employees who raised concerns, including specific warnings to Sarah Evans about knowing her place and ensuring she'd never work construction again. Most damaging is the revelation that Mark has a history of similar behavior at 3 previous companies, all settled quietly with non-disclosure agreements he'd concealed when applying to Summit. Alex had obtained these sealed records through court orders during the investigation. Mark's composure crumbles visibly with each new piece of evidence. His own attorney appears increasingly uncomfortable, creating physical distance between herself and her client as the case disintegrates. This is all fabricated. Mark interrupts, voice rising. Stone manipulated those recordings. Ask the real workers, the ones who understand how construction actually works, not these diversity hires complaining about hurt feelings. Mr. Jenkins, the lead arbitrator warns, control yourself. When directly confronted with bank statements showing deposits coinciding exactly with project supply approvals, Mark loses his last vestige of self-control. You think construction gets built following every damn regulation? Wake up. Projects get done because people like me make the hard calls. Not pencil pushers, and certainly not. He uses a prejudiced slur that causes even his own attorney to gasp. The arbitration panel needs only 15 minutes to reach their unanimous decision against Mark. As he storms from the hearing room, he discovers reporters waiting in the hallway, the same ones he had contacted to smear Summit, now armed with transcripts of his outburst. As Mark faces a wall of cameras, Alex receives an urgent call about deliberate sabotage in the East Wing Foundation. 6 months later, the Chicago skyline gleams against a perfect blue September sky. The once troubled development now rises proudly, its distinctive curved facade becoming a recognizable landmark even before completion. A Summit structure's banner stretches across the 23rd floor, visible from 3 major highways. Inside the site's management office, Sarah Evans conducts the daily briefing with quiet authority. Her former hesitation has vanished, replaced by confident leadership that's earned respect across all departments. The promotion to permanent site manager came with specialized training, mentorship from senior executives, and a compensation package that finally provided security for her family. East Wing inspections confirm we've recovered fully from the structural issues. She tells her team leaders, "We're back on schedule for March completion." Alex observes from the back of the room, pride evident in his expression. The transformation extends beyond this single project. He's used the Mark incident as a catalyst for company-wide reform, implementing systemic changes that address the underlying cultural problems. Later that afternoon, Alex stands at a podium in the grand ballroom of the Palmer House Hotel, addressing the National Construction Industry Leadership Conference. 500 executives representing major builders across America. His keynote speech titled Building Integrity, the Foundation of Sustainable Construction, has drawn unprecedented attendance. The incident at our Michigan Avenue project could have remained an isolated termination, Alex tells the hushed audience. Instead, it became the impetus to examine deeper structural problems within our industry. He presents Summit's new accountability systems, transparent reporting structures for safety concerns, anonymous whistleblower protocols with genuine protection, regular site audits conducted by independent inspectors. Most revolutionary is the company's decision to publish all internal findings, good and bad, on a public dashboard. Construction has historically solved its problems behind closed doors. Alex continues. That culture of secrecy enabled discrimination, safety violations, and financial impropriety to flourish. Sunlight proves the most effective disinfectant. Intercut with the speech are scenes from the transformed work site. Diverse crews working efficiently under Sarah's leadership, a clear reporting system where violations are documented on tablets that upload directly to company servers, and regular town halls where workers at all levels can raise concerns directly to management. The initiatives have produced measurable results. Workplace injuries down 70%, project completion times improved by 12% despite stricter safety protocols, and employee retention rates at historic highs. The financial benefits have more than offset the initial investment in new systems. Alex announces the establishment of a scholarship program for minorities interested in construction management, named after his father. The first class of recipients includes the nephew of Robert Greene, who had previously been driven away by Mark's discrimination, but now returns to the industry with formal training and guaranteed placement. My father built this company believing that excellence and integrity could coexist with profitability, Alex explains, displaying a photo of the elder Mr. Stone breaking ground on Summit's first major project. Recent events proved we had strayed from that vision. This recommitment to our founding principles isn't just morally right, it's demonstrably better business. The section concludes with a news montage showing the ripple effects across the industry. 3 other major construction companies adopting similar transparency protocols after facing their own scandals. New industry guidelines being drafted by the National Association of Builders. And construction trade schools implementing ethics training alongside technical skills. As applause follows Alex from the stage, his phone displays an urgent message. Mark now works for their biggest competitor who just won the government contract. 1 year later, the completed mixed-use development stands as a gleaming testament to architectural vision and construction excellence. Sunlight plays across its curved glass exterior, the distinctive silhouette already featured in Chicago tourism materials. What began as a troubled project has transformed into Summit's flagship achievement. Alex Stone stands at the podium erected in the building's spectacular atrium. Surrounding him are city officials, business leaders, and most importantly, the construction team that brought the vision to reality. The grand opening ceremony has drawn hundreds, including media representatives documenting what's being called the most significant commercial development in Chicago's North Side in 20 years. This building represents more than steel, concrete, and glass. Alex begins, his voice carrying through the perfect acoustics. It embodies a transformation not just of urban space, but of workplace culture and industry standards. He never mentions Mark by name throughout his speech, instead focusing on the journey of positive change. When challenges emerged during construction, we faced a choice: continue with flawed foundations or rebuild with integrity. The easier path is rarely the right one. Alex publicly honors those who demonstrated courage during the crisis. Sarah Evans receives thunderous applause when he announces her promotion to Regional Construction Director, overseeing all Summit projects in Illinois. Robert Greene, now Summit's head safety compliance officer, stands with his nephew, a recent engineering graduate and scholarship recipient now managing his first project. Throughout the reception that follows, several workers who initially participated in the discrimination approach Alex privately. A crane operator who once laughed at Mark's jokes confesses, "I knew it was wrong, but I was afraid to stand alone. Watching you handle everything with dignity changed how I see this job." Later, in a quiet moment by the window overlooking the city, CEO Eleanor Green joins Alex. Mark's attempt to work for Midwest Builders backfired spectacularly. She informs him with subtle satisfaction. They discovered his history within 2 weeks and terminated him immediately. No severance, no references. Alex nods without surprise. The construction industry's informal information network had ensured Mark's reputation traveled faster than any formal warning could have. The criminal charges for financial fraud had resulted in probation and court-ordered restitution payments to injured workers, a public acknowledgement of wrongdoing that prevented him from simply starting fresh elsewhere. He's working as a site inspector for a small operation in Wisconsin. Eleanor continues. Entry-level position, a fraction of his former salary. The last I heard, he's required to submit daily reports to a supervisor half his age. Alex simply nods, finding no pleasure in another man's downfall. Only relief that justice has prevailed. More significant than Mark's individual fate, the industry reforms Alex championed have taken root. A brief montage shows similar accountability systems being implemented at construction sites across the country, with diverse leadership increasingly becoming the norm rather than the exception. The Summit Protocol has become shorthand for ethical construction management, studied in business schools and featured in industry publications. In the day's final moments, after others have departed, Alex visits a small memorial garden established behind the building. A simple stone bears his father's name and the company's founding date. Alex places a framed photo of the completed building beside it, along with the Urban Development Award for Excellence the project recently received. "We built it better, Dad," he says quietly to the empty garden. "Just like you asked." True leadership isn't built on fear or power, but on integrity that stands firm even when no one seems to be watching. Did this story of workplace justice inspire you? Subscribe now to Impactful Narratives for powerful tales of justice, redemption, and triumph every week. Hit that like button to help others discover this channel. Turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon so you never miss our new uploads. Each one carefully crafted to deliver that satisfying moment when wrongdoers face the consequences of their actions. This isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of what happens when truth meets visibility. At Dark Stories, we believe exposure is the first step to transformation. Subscribe and stay tuned because the next story might be yours.